Hi everyone, welcome back. Today I would like to do something a little bit different. It's not cash stuffing per se, but it's more like I would like to share how I budget on a monthly basis, or rather on a weekly basis, and what figures I use, what kind of figures, how do I calculate how much to put in my weekly wallet, my sinking funds and all that. Okay, so if you're interested in that kind of video where it's more informative than just showing you what I do, please subscribe to this channel, like this video, and yeah, I would greatly appreciate it if you do. So just a little backstory. What happened was, because I'm a stay-at-home mama, I do not get a salary from work. Rather, I get my pay, in air quotes, from my husband, who gives me a lump sum every month. So I would have to say though, I only started changing the way I budget very recently. Okay, before the month of May, what I did was I tried to take the monthly income or the monthly amount that my husband has given me. He transfers over to my bank account, and what I do is I'll usually just take away all the fixed expenses of that month, and then divide it by four weeks or five if that month has five, and then I would calculate it from there. But then I realized it wasn't working very well for me, as in I get confused, a little over like where certain amounts are supposed to go and stuff like that. So what I did for the month of May, which I think I might continue, assuming nothing goes wrong, what I'll do is I still get paid monthly. I'll still get my pay from my husband monthly, but then I would then split it into two pay periods. So basically I would do a bi-weekly budget instead, using a monthly income. Okay, so let me explain a little bit further. So basically, I hope you guys can see this. What I'm doing is I get paid once a month, all right, but I'll split it into two pay periods. So for example, just a disclaimer, I thought of giving you my actual numbers, like the actual income and the expenses that I have to work with every month, but then I'm a little uncomfortable at disclosing my actual numbers. I hope you guys don't mind. So I'm giving just sample numbers here, but I am doing the exact same process. So I hope you guys don't mind that I'm actually not using my real numbers here. Okay, so for example, if you are paid monthly $2,000, and you might be paid on the first of every month, you might be paid in the middle of the month, you may be paid at the end of the month, it doesn't matter. Okay, what matters is if you know when you're being paid, then in this case, I am always paid. This is real. I am always paid on the 10th. So my husband transfers the money over to my bank account on the 10th of every month. So what happens is then my month would then be the 10th of this month to the 9th of the next month. Does that make sense? Okay, I hope it does. So that would be my month. So my month doesn't necessarily go according to January, February, and March and April and stuff like that, but it will go according to when I'm being paid, right? So then I would divide my month. So basically, assuming I'm doing the budget for June, I would then split this income into two pay periods of 2 weeks each. Okay, so this means I would have these two pay periods. So I'll be paid on the 10th of June, okay, for 2 weeks until 24th of June. This would be my first pay period. Then my second pay period would then be from the 25th of June to the 9th of July, which is just the day before I get paid again. This would be the second pay period. Okay. So what I do is I would then divide my income into two. So I would have $1,000 per 2 weeks, right? Every 2 weeks or every pay period. Okay. So this is when I start calculating my fixed expenses for this pay period. So it would be helpful if you have the monthly calendar in front of you, and then you start jotting down on which dates you have certain bills or expenses to go out on that particular date. Okay, and then so for example, I have here, these are examples of my fixed expenses coming out on during these 2 weeks. Okay, during this pay period. So for example, I have electricity, 100, water, school bus. Well, I do pay for my daughter's school bus, so I thought it would be a good idea to include that in there as an example of a fixed expense that has to come out of my bank account every month. And then, for example, any subscriptions you might have, like Netflix. Okay, so the total fixed expenses or bills that I have to pay during this pay period is $370 in this case. And then I would go on to my variable spending for these, again for this pay period. So if you notice, I tend to repeat. This is to remind myself that I am only calculating for this pay period. So anything that falls, any bills or any expenses that fall outside, this pay period, I will not consider it. This would be included in the next budget instead, right? So then, for example, this is my weekly spending. So for example, I have groceries, transport, my personal spending, and some miscellaneous, which totals up to $280. Okay, I hope so far it makes sense, because this actually makes sense in my head, but I'm not sure if it actually makes sense for you as well. So then what I do next is I would then take the leftover, which is my income minus my fixed and minus my variable, which is 1,000 minus 370 minus 280, and I would get a leftover of $350 for this pay period. Okay, and this would then go into my sinking funds. All right, so for example, I have the sinking funds listed here. Of course, you can have more, you can have less, it doesn't matter, but I just wanted to show you that you can just list down the different sinking funds you have and the amount you want to put in for this pay period. So for the 2 weeks of this particular budget. Okay, so for example, I have Christmas, health, birthdays, and maybe I'm saving up for a new phone. Okay, and the total would be $120. Then I'll calculate the leftover, which is 350 minus 120. I will get $230. Now, what can I then do with this $230? I can choose to either put it into my saving challenges, or I can actually leave it in my account as a buffer. Okay, now I know that, I've seen online many cash stuffers budget, and I know that some people, they don't believe in a buffer because they think that if they see that buffer in the account, they would spend it, which is very logical indeed. However, some people, they choose to leave a buffer in their account just in case, they have any unexpected expenses coming up, or they underestimated certain spendings, okay, and they have to take it from their buffer instead. Now, for myself, what I do is I do leave a buffer in my account. However, I do not go through this whole process in order to find out what my buffer is. What I do is, at the very beginning, when I am calculating my fixed expenses, okay, I will pay myself that buffer first, just in case I don't get any buffer in the end, in case I decide to allocate more to my variable spending, or decide to allocate more to my sinking funds. So in this list of fixed expenses, what I do is I'll actually add a buffer of, say, $100, for example. And then this would increase. And therefore, when I calculate, for the variable spending, for my sinking funds, my buffer would already be accounted for. And whatever's left over, I can then use it solely for either sinking funds or savings challenges, depending on your priority. So after this pay period is over, okay, so what I've done is I've only budgeted for this first pay period. Then I'll do the same. So on maybe a couple of days before this date, maybe 22nd of June or even 20th of June, I would then start to budget for the next pay period using the exact same process, because I know that my income, I have the other $1,000 for this second pay period. And then I would go through the entire process again. Now, for the second pay period, your fixed expenses will not be the same, because then you need to look at what other expenses come up during the second pay period. Okay, and then your amounts may be higher, your amounts may be lower, okay, and you may decide to put more into groceries that particular pay period, or you may decide to put less in groceries. So it really depends, you know, on your situation, on your family, on what's happening in your day-to-day. Okay, so and that's basically how I'm budgeting right now, currently for May and June. I hope that this helps even a little to some of you out there. I'm sorry if I didn't explain myself well enough, but please leave any questions in the comments if you have any, and I'll be sure to answer them as soon as I can. So yeah, for now, please have a great week ahead, and please look out for my next cash stuffing video as well. Okay, thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll see you again soon. Take care. Bye.